Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our CPIC meeting for Monday, November 11th. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the board's YouTube channel this week. If we can start, Lobby, with our land acknowledgement, please.
Halton, as we know it today, is rich in the history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis, from the lands of the Anishinaabe to the Atawandara, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis. These lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, our Catholic social teaching scholars, in solidarity with our indigenous brothers and sisters, to honor and respect the four directions, lands, waters, plants, animals, and ancestors that walked before us. All these wonderful elements of creation exist, gifted to us by God. We acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation for being stewards of this traditional territory.
Thank you very much. And over to Emily for our opening prayer, please.
With today being Remembrance Day, I just wanted to share a little story. My grandfather was a member of the Royal Canadian Navy Volunteer Reserve in World War II. When he passed away in 2009, we had members of the Legion in Cornwall, Ontario, honor him, and they walked up to his casket to the last post. They each had poppies over their hearts, and they placed them, I get a little bit emotional, so don't mind me. They placed him along the side of his casket as they reached him, and it was such a moving and powerful gesture for me that really stayed with me. So each Remembrance Day, that memory comes up for me, and I just wanted to share it because it was just reminding me of the gratitude that we owe to those who serve our country and how privileged we are here to live in Canada. So let us begin with a sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Today we gather in gratitude for the men and women who served our country with courage and sacrifice. We thank you for the peace and freedoms we enjoy because of their dedication. Help us to honor their memory by living with gratitude and striving for peace in all we do. We pray for those who continue to serve. Grant them strength, wisdom, and protection. May we follow their example of selflessness and be guided by your love to seek justice, compassion, and unity in our own lives. As we remember their sacrifices, may we be filled with strength and moved to be instruments of peace and kindness in our world. In Jesus' name we pray.
Okay. Next up is just our approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes or additions to the agenda? Nope. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Jackie, and a second. Becky, thank you. Becca, thanks. Sorry, long day. Okay, and then same thing for the minutes. Does anybody have any additions, changes, or deletions to the minutes from our last meeting? Nope. Okay, motion to approve, please. Lobby, and a second. Janelle, thank you. Okay, we're going to just change up the order a little bit just because people are sick and people are absent, so we're just going to run with it. So I'm going to hand it over to Trustee Dewar to do his trustee update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. Since the last CPIC meeting, we had two board meetings, one on October 15th and one on November 5th. At the October 15th board meeting, there was a staff EQAO update presented by Superintendent Skripek. We are performing at above provincial levels, and we look forward to excelling in reading, writing, and math in the years to come. So we have been working hard at that. At that same board meeting, there was an action item. A couple of bylaws were cleaned up, and but of note is from January 2025, board meetings will be held once a month on the third Tuesday of the month, and it was a unanimous decision of the board. At the same meeting, there was a staff report on the HDSB Math Achievement Action Plan. Again, Superintendent Skripek presented that. He's the superintendent for math, and we have a plan for years ahead. We intend to be leaders in math. At the November 5th board meeting, there was a robotics presentation in the boardroom, so it's really interesting. In the boardroom here by students from Loyola Secondary who recently participated in the first robotics competition held at St. Mary's in Hamilton. 3 robotics teams from our board have been participating in this competitions over the past years, and they have been participating in provincial levels and international levels. So the students talked about their experiences of teamwork, creativity, and their development of engineering skills. And the students have represented our board very well, as I said, provincially and internationally. And that's my report, very short report. Thank you. Any questions, I'll take.
Okay, doesn't look like there's any questions. I think you're off the hook. Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Okay, and then second, I'm going to just give, actually I'm going to leave it in the same order. Okay, so I'll pass it over to you, Superintendent Nolfo, for your update.
Thank you, Lauren, and good evening, everyone. So thank you to all the CPIC members who will be attending the Bishop Crosby's dinner on Thursday night, November 14th. I know some of you have other commitments, so we understand. But know that we do have some empty spots at the table. So if there's somebody else on your council, I believe there's 4 more seats, right? 4. If there's somebody else on your council that you would like to bring, not to leave any of the seats empty, please like reach out to Andrew or myself, see if we can fill them. This is a wonderful community event to fundraise for our Halton Catholic families and students. The foundation appreciates the support of CPIC and all the Catholic school councils for supporting the Bishop's Dinner through word of mouth, fundraising initiatives, and events at each school. All of the foundation's efforts is to support the needs of families within our Halton Catholic community. So the money does go back to our families within the school that have a need. Today, all of our schools marked Remembrance Day with the ceremony and liturgy honoring all those who have served and are serving in the armed forces, in the front lines, in international cooperation, peacekeeping, and in many areas of our country to build infrastructure and support emergency efforts. We here at the CC had a very special service led by our system chaplain, Jillian Federico, this morning. It was here, it was beautiful this morning. And this is Jillian's displays that she had set for the service. So under the achieving pillar, we continue to hold high expectation for all. Progress reports for elementary will go out electronically on November 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Each of the schools is on a rotation, and parent-teacher interviews will be held on November 28th and on the PA Day, November 29th. And I think parents have the opportunity to select, for many schools, the time through the electronic portal or whatever system each school set up. All of our kindergarten to grade 2 students have been assessed using the new early reading screening tool, and parents will get some update from the classroom teachers at their interviews about how the students progressed. Secondary midterm reports are going out in the middle of November, and students who are applying to college and university for September 2025, this is the first set of marks that have been uploaded to OCASA and OYAC. There will be a virtual parent engagement on e-learning courses offering for parents of children in grade 8 to 11 on Wednesday evening this week at 7 o'clock. Sonia Ellison, who is the vice principal of Thomas Merton, and Maureen Aslin, who is our consultant for e-learning, will be leading this presentation, supported by Superintendent Del Sordo. There will be a Pathways presentation with Judy Bridges at Corpus Christi. This will be in person on Tuesday, November 19th at 7 p.m. Different than last year, we are doing a capacity limit so that only people who can attend can fit in the auditorium, because logistically last year they had an overflow into the cafeteria, but then there was who was managing that. So it'll be just for the auditorium, and we'll do a session in the winter virtually. Under the believing pillar, we are distinctly Catholic. Schools are planning their community support programs for the season of Advent. Many schools are supporting St. Vincent de Paul or the foundation. All schools will have an Advent Mass or celebrated with the family of schools. Some of the schools are having a Christmas concert or some special event. Everybody will do a special event, but not all schools will do a Christmas concert. Our board initiative for Keep Christ in Christmas contest is up and running, so we look forward to all the entries from our students. Under the belonging pillar, we are a community that accompanies. Bullying Awareness Week will be the week of November 18th. Thank you to the CPIC Social Media Committee for supporting the goals of the Board Bullying Steering Committee under the direction of Superintendent Cordero. Our reporting tool is on our board website and linked to all our school websites. This is a space for students and parents to report incidents of bullying when they don't feel comfortable to report it to a trusted adult at the school. We always encourage the students or families to go to a trusted adult, but some people may not feel comfortable, and this gives them a space. Each school is highlighting Bullying Awareness Week with a variety of activities at their school. This is led by the child and youth counselors who are supporting this through the school educators. And each school has a school action plan for how they're raising awareness and supporting students and families. Some schools actually get this committee going this week, that week, their Bullying Awareness Week. Many of our extracurricular programs are fully running. Some of our fall season sports are winding down and the winter season sports are beginning. Arts programs are up and running, STEAM programs, and there's many activities for a variety of students and their interests across all of our schools. All of our grade 8 parent information sessions and orientations have taken place in our local high schools, including our AP and IB information nights. New registrations for 25-26 school year opened online on November 4th for kindergarten to grade 12 students, and that was a great uptake that started last week. We have been welcoming our new families to our kindergarten open houses in each municipality. Our first one was in Oakville at St. Andrews, in Halton Hills 2 weeks ago at St. Catherine of Alexandria. Last week we had it in Milton at St. Scholastica, and thank you to Principal Malcione for letting us use her school for that event. And we have our Burlington one next on November 21st, so next Thursday at St. Christopher's School. At these sessions, we have board staff and our community partners from Halton Transportation Services, the region, YMCA, Parkview, and our speech and language staff were there. Under the Becoming, we are on a journey together. We will be having St. Cecilia's official blessing and dedication next Tuesday at 10 o'clock a.m. And we will be having St. Veronica, one of the schools in Milton, one of the new schools in Milton, on Tuesday, December 10th at 2 o'clock p.m. Last week, we had the official groundbreaking of our new Georgetown site for our Holy Cross School on Wednesday last week. So that was pretty exciting for Trustee Hearn Zanota. She's worked so hard to get that from the ministry to actually have that new build there. So that was an exciting day last week. So we're excited for that community. And then today, as the senior team with our senior managers, we had our training this morning from our Human Rights and Equity Office, Foundations of Centering Black Experiences in Education training. And all of our administrators will be trained in December and school educators on February 14th. And here at the CEC, all staff will be trained on November 29th. An update to Lauren, your question with regards to World Book Day. So I did bring this to first to CETA from the Human Rights and Equity, and I had shared with you, there's always a concern whenever we're going to do something that's of a dress up, is it equitable for all? So we talked about it and maybe not the best thing. This is now Linda Murray, our manager of library services, input for World Book Day. She says, I'm going to read exactly what she has shared with me. She said to me to share it. And Andrew's going to put up some of the pictures. So World Book Day is celebrated in the UK and Ireland. While I support international events that promote literacy, I believe our libraries at HCDSB excel in celebrating Canadian initiatives. Last month, we celebrated Canadian Library Month, where many students across the board participated in the Dear School Library campaign, a love lettering project by the Ontario School Library Association. So check out St. Scholastica's library windows. And those are the windows. And that's from Henry School. And then just this past week on November 6th, many of the schools celebrated I Read Canadian Day, a national celebration of Canadian books for young people. The goal is to elevate the genre and celebrate the diversity of these books. And check out the display from St. Catharines. This is their book display. Additionally, many schools in our board participate in the Forest of Reading, Canada's largest recreational reading program. Many schools run a modified version of the program, specifically the Blue Spruce and Silver Birch categories. This program has just started as the nominees were announced in October. And she was saying, I was wondering if when you were thinking of what Halton District is doing, was it the official forest voting day that's on April 23rd that coincides with World Book Day? Maybe that's what they do there. Halton District?
I'm pretty sure they said specifically World Book Day celebrating.
Oh, okay, okay. So Guardian Angels does a great job with the festival and many students participate. Each leaf in the picture below, so in the next picture, represents 5 books read by students in grade 3 to 8. She says another library tech sent an email last year. I overheard a conversation between a grade 6 student that had finished reading all 10 books from the Forest of Reading Silver Birch Award and one of her friends who didn't participate in the program. Her friend said that she didn't believe the student had read all 10 books because the student isn't a reader. The girl just shrugged and told her friend that she hasn't read a lot in the past, but anyone can become a reader and her friend should try the first Forest of Reading program next year. I personally look forward to, so this is from our senior manager, she said, I personally look forward to Family Literacy Day, which will be highlighted as we have in the past. Family Literacy Day takes place on January 27th to raise awareness about the importance of reading and engaging in literacy-related activities as a family. We plan to highlight this again and encourage libraries and families to participate. So she supports whatever each school wants to do, but not necessarily a board initiative about this because all the librarians have been doing all of this already in the schools. So this is her input, okay? In talking with Anne Marie specifically, I think I'm gonna let Anne Marie speak to it. At St. Scholastica, they do at her school highlight this day that you had asked about. So I think some schools do it, but as a whole system, it may not be because some of the librarians have already sort of picked their events that they are doing this year. So this is what she's basically saying to me. We already have some of the schools doing this. Do we want the whole system to have to do something in addition to what they're already doing? Okay. And Anne-Marie, I don't know if you want to speak to what's happening at St. Scholastica.
It's a tradition at St. Scholastica and they call it Favorite Character Day. And they raise money and all donations go to the Love of Reading Foundation. So students may choose to dress up as a favorite character from a picture book. So it's a tradition that they've had for the last 5 years. So we'll continue that. I thought it was a great idea. And again, like every school can choose to do what they like. I think it was a great idea to kind of promote picture books for Canadian picture books.
Okay. So Lauren, I think that I can bring it back to the schools and to share with their librarians and their administrators to say, this is a day. So you together with your school choose, or even within a family of schools, because I think that's what's really important is if you keep things within the family schools and kids who are in neighborhoods are interact. Like, I'm not saying we can't do it, but I think we should also honor some traditions the schools may already have, but maybe there's maybe a school that has a librarian who isn't doing any of this. And I think that's what we need to promote, to say, we need to have things like this promoted since many of the schools are doing it. So if there's a school that's not doing some of these things, I think we need to encourage that. We good with that? Any questions?
Yeah. I just want to ask the initiative at St. Scholastica, does it hold on the same day, 23rd of April?
Theirs is on the 25th this year.
25th.
Mm-hmm. It's the 23rd is World Book Day.
So they have theirs on the 25th.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it kind of means they planned the initiative to come around the same period
Yes.
where it's been celebrated.
Yes.
So some sorts, like somebody bringing an idea to the table, but because it's not at board level, we could literally just make something at our local level, right?
Yes.
That's what it's happening. So I don't think it's a bad idea to promote it around the entire.
Okay. I have a couple of questions for you that came from a friend of mine who reached out to me with some questions about her school's council. So I'm just going to read them over, if that's okay. Okay, so first question she had was around bylaws at schools, and are Catholic school councils required to have a set of bylaws?
Absolutely. Every school is to have bylaws. They're supposed to be presented at the first meeting they have every year. They're supposed to present the bylaws that were in place the previous year and share them with the new Catholic school council members with the intention to review them and bring any changes or suggestions or recommendations to the bylaws to the next meeting. Okay. That has been clearly communicated for the past few years. When we do review of the policies and procedures with our administrators in August, we remind them of the importance of this. The bylaws should be available to everyone on the Catholic School Council and to the school community.
Okay, awesome. Next question she had was, are minutes required to be taken at all school council meetings, including the initial meeting where council members are elected?
All meetings must have minutes, and that should be in the bylaws clearly stating that. But in the policy and procedures, the minutes have to be held for 4 years.
Writing my notes here. Okay. The next question was, if an election was found to be held in a manner that was not in accordance with the school's bylaws, then would the election need to be reheld?
If they are not in line with the bylaws, they should be redone.
Okay.
It should be redone, the election.
And presumably that would be at whatever the next regular meeting is.
Next minute. Okay. And following the same process. So I would think that, I'm not sure the circumstances, but if there was nominations, first of all, nominations that came in September, and if they decided we're not having an election because we're going to allow everyone to be in, so then is it the election for the positions?
For the executive position, chair, co-chair, treasurer, et cetera.
Okay, so then that would, yeah, if that didn't follow the way it's supposed to happen within the bylaws, then you should do it again. So to make sure that's accurate to the bylaws.
Okay. Okay. All right. Next question. Just to verify what the rules are around non-Catholic parents running for a vice chair position, not a chair or co-chair position, is that allowed?
So the way the policy reads is chair, co-chair must be Catholic. In the event that a parent who's not Catholic and wants to be sort of chair, they can't. They cannot. It's clearly in our policy. We've said it. They have to be Catholic. The Board of Trustees have voted on that. In the event there's somebody who wants to have that type, then many Catholic school councils don't have a vice chair position. They can amend their bylaws to have a vice chair. So remember, then you have a chair is sort of that elevated position. Vice chair is here. So that's why this one can be Catholic,
Okay.
non-Catholic.
It just has to be in the bylaws.
Yeah, it has to be in your bylaws. And so that if you're in that situation, then you should amend your bylaws to have a vice chair position with that language.
Yep.
Can I just ask a question based on that? So Nancy, if a school doesn't have a chair and vice chair but has co-chairs, then both the co-chairs need to be Catholic,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And sorry, go ahead.
And the vice chair cannot become chair if the chair should leave. Yeah. So you'd have to refill the chair position.
And we've worked through this with a couple of the schools over the past 2 years. And so when that happens, sort of they come to me and they said, like, we have 2 people, they want to be co-chairs, but one's not Catholic. So I guided them to say, amend your bylaws and do that. But I said the same, what Jerry is saying, I always guide them to say, but realize The vice chair can never assume the role of
Yeah.
chair in the event that the chair had to step down. Somebody else on your council have to. And I'll just share with you, there's 2 schools that have 4 people on council and no one wants to be the chair. Okay? So, and which, you know what, they said it, they said, we all want to be partake, but nobody wants to take the chair role. So I said, okay, how many meetings do you have? I said, somebody has to be the chair for that meeting. So somebody still has to take that responsibility, and they have to agree that somebody on the council has to meet with the principal to set the meeting agenda for each of the meetings. And so that's the advice I gave them. They're sharing it. Okay.
Okay, and then the last question. How should a school ensure that individuals who show up to the first council meeting who haven't previously registered are actually parents or have children in the school, and thus ensure that people who are voting are actually eligible to vote?
So I'm not sure the format of what you're talking about, but our meetings are all open, right? So anybody could come into the meeting, but who should be sitting at the Catholic School Council table?
Yeah.
Are the individuals who were nominated, and the principal has a nomination form and can verify this is, Angelo's nomination form, this is Janelle's nomination form. They're a parent at the school to validate that everybody who's there, who is a voting member, had a nomination form in, and be transparent about that process.
All right. Have to sign the declaration.
Yeah. Well, what has to happen is when you start the meeting, everybody identifies them. It's agreed that everybody is a nominated individual and wants to take on the role. Then you go through the code of ethics with everyone. You talk about the declaration, you do your commissioning ceremony.
Lauren,
Yep.
outside of the fact that I can't imagine anybody wants to go unnecessarily to a meeting, outside of that, can we not amend the form to indicate which name of your student or name of your child that's in school? Is that against rules so that we can verify that they do have a child in school?
The nominations go to the principal.
It goes-
So
it has-
so the principal or the admin with their.
You would think they would vet it, right?
Yes,
Yes.
they would vet all the
Probably, okay.
nominations, make sure they're a valid nominee. Also check on the status of whether they're Catholic or not.
Right.
Because you have to ensure the majority of council are Catholic. So there's that vetting process.
There is a vetting
Yeah,
process in place then,
Yeah.
right?
for sure. Should be.
And none of the schools had an actual election for the membership. So how many parents expressed an interest? All the schools welcomed and amended their bylaws so that they didn't have to do it. That's been going on for the last 2 years. So all are welcome.
Okay, and one question over there.
Sorry. Can we, the OAPC piece, can we ask or insist on having the school send out any information about that? Or is that something that can the school refuse? For example, I guess I'm the OAPC rep. So my question is, there's a whole bunch of information that's going to be presented to council, but to go out to the larger parent group, can that information be sent? Can we ask the principal to send that information out? Or would that be something that we would go back to the OAPC rep, OAPC group and have them send it out to all the parents?
Andrea, correct me if I'm not wrong about this, but I thought that Strategic Communication had put the link to the OAPC site on all the schools' websites. So all the information about OAPC is there under your Catholic School Council.
On the piece, yeah, so that's there, but what if you want to send an email about, any new initiatives that are going on or things that we want to, just a reminder, is that something that we can ask the school to send out, or is that something that is not usually done or that they can refuse to?
Well, I would think that if you're part of the school's Catholic School Council and you're speaking to the principal, say, as the OAPC rep, can this be included in either your weekly communication or
Right.
that would be reasonable?
That would be okay, right? I just want to make sure there's no rules against.
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, still on the bylaws again, how frequently can bylaws be amended by schools? Yearly, or is there a period to it?
They have to be reviewed annually, but throughout the year, if things come up that you have to change, all the schools have a framework, so which is accessible first to the principal to share, but even in our, the Catholic School Council binder toolkit, there's sample bylaws in there too. The same ones that I gave to the principals, I've shared with the Catholic School Council. So there's samples, a very basic one, because some of our older schools have had the same bylaws for a long time. Their councils run well. They may have amended because when we went to, it has to be, the chairs must be Catholic, okay? And then that 50% plus one have to be Catholic of your council. That depends on the size. So for example, a school might have 12. That means that 7 of them have to be Catholic, okay? It should be in all the bylaws. Okay, it should be in all, because that's in policy and procedure, right? So that should, those are the amendments that we had to do last year. Everybody's had to be. But again, it's specific to the school and how formal their Catholic School Council runs. So that's what I'm saying. Schools that have been around for a long time may not have as formal, but it's worked for that school community. That's okay. There's a model of a simple bylaw. And then I've got my really in-depth, and I'm going to say my St. Anne bylaws, not created by me, created by parents when we opened the school community, that really followed a very, really professional bylaw. And so they have that available to them. So nobody's expecting anybody to start from scratch and create something new. There's a lot of models that are out there.
Yeah, I get it. So my concern is the reviews of the bylaws. The school has autonomy to review as much as possible from what you said, right?
Yes.
I think, is that not going to be bastardized? There should be some sort of board guidance to it, like, okay, from the Catholic board, this is the period with which bylaws can be reviewed or worked on, maybe every 3 years, every 5 years or something like that, just to guide. Because if there's autonomy, a certain school can review their bylaws like almost every other time just to suit their own agendas, right? I don't think that is really.
What I say, Lavi, but what it is I think there's a structure to the bylaws that follows what procedurally should happen with the bylaws. It talks about membership. It talks about the meetings when they must happen. It talks about who can vote, like all the traditional things that are even in our bylaws of CPIC. So they even have the CPIC bylaws. Okay, and I remember Jerry, when Jerry was overseeing that, we talked about, does CPIC mandate that every school has the exact same bylaws? And I don't know if that's appropriate, because we've got schools that have been around for a long time that have run really well with their Catholic School Council. Why are we saying to them they have to run it exactly this way, as long as they're aligned to the policy and the procedure? They may have certain things in there that are specific to that school community that may not represent, as long as they follow they must follow of the policy procedure, that must be in the bylaw. Does that make sense? And every year it should be reviewed, because you have new council members every year, so they have to be brought up to speed.
And just in practicality, there's how the bylaws are written. But of course, they do include some very standard things, like percentage of Catholic members, as an example. That is the same across the board. So there are certain elements that are exactly the same because they have to be. And then there's allowance for nuance from community to community. What in my mind is more important is how the councils are run. And we hear and we know that that's very inconsistent. And then sometimes they're not consistent with their own bylaws or even with board procedure and policy. That to me is of more concern than having a rigid set of, you must follow these bylaws. But you don't want to make it so rigid that it takes away from the purpose of a good Catholic School Council, and that is to gather as a school community and through discernment and discussion come to consensus on what it is you want to do as a school. It's how that happens more than it is about what's in the bylaws themselves. I'm just talking in a practical sense. There's some argument to be made for, shouldn't we all have the same bylaws? In one sense, maybe so, but in my mind, more importantly, is how are these councils being run? And because through these questions, there's some disturbing stuff out there as to how things are being run and how the bylaws are being observed or not observed. Well, that to me is the bigger issue, if I may. But anyway, it's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Okay. Just to bring the pressure down. Looks like there's a bit of tension. I know the CPIC members have been talking about the dinner, the bishop's dinner, and I'd registered my interest. I just want to make it open to the house that I won't be able to make it anymore. Sorry. I'd reached out to Andrea earlier, but then I just want the members to be aware so Lauren doesn't take my head.
Okay, no worries. Okay, does anybody have any other questions for Superintendent Donalfo before we move on? Cool, thank you very much. Okay, so next item up is the OAPSI update. Denise was not able to be here tonight, but she's given me her update, so I'm just going to read it out what she said. So she said, OAPSI held its first liaison representative meeting on November 7th at Corpus Christi, was attended by 27 reps. The theme was advocating as super parents. Highlights and pictures will be posted on the OAPSI website shortly on the Halton page. Halton representatives were commissioned and an overview was provided as to their roles in communicating information to their parent councils and also about OAPSI's greater role in engaging parents and advocating for Catholic education. That's her update.
It was a really good session, just letting you know. And also, just to let you know, Denise is retiring at the end of this year. She's looking for someone. I'm looking at everybody by myself. She's looking for someone to take over her position as director. So, and I think her existing, the two people that help her out cannot do it either because their kids are out of, has to be somebody that's within the school board. The kids are in the school board right now, so.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so moving on to subcommittees. So first up is CPIC bylaws. So Jerry, this over to you.
So last time around we had asked for feedback and input on the existing bylaws. We received some feedback, not a ton, but what we did receive was very good actually. So we'll start with that. We'll work with that to begin with, but I will come back and ask again for additional feedback and input, and maybe we'll have a quiz and next meeting and see who's read the bylaws. No.
I admit I got halfway through them giving you my feedback, and then I had a week and a half of sick household and I never got back to it, so I still owe you my feedback. So I apologize for that.
Hey, listen, they're pretty good, okay? So all to say, we will circle back again, and but however, we do have a starting point, so we'll organize a meeting for the subcommittee and start to come forward with some proposals for amendments. And that'll probably prompt some additional discussion at the large table as well. So.
Okay, thank you. So next is the Parent Engagement Committee. So who wants to give that update?
Sorry. Actually, yes, we kind of want to, I think, really formalize some of the pieces that came through. Thank you to everybody who participated in the survey. We took a look at all the results, great graphs and charts and whatnot. And what we've come up with was, we know there are two obvious ones, which is the secondary pathways session, which I think Nancy, we were looking at the availability of the speakers for the end of November, but I don't know if they are. Sorry.
So the November 19th session, the pathways,
Okay,
yes, they're available. So that's the one that Judy Bridges is doing. So it's happening on the 19th at Corpus Christi.
Okay.
Okay.
That
And then
one,
we're going to do a virtual one
I was
in
going to say
February as well.
Okay.
So there's going to be one in person and then a virtual one
Okay.
in February.
And then the one for the elementary pathways is, we were thinking February, because this is a secondary one, right? February between 4th and 6th, North Halton, and then maybe Burlington, Oakville. So do we have speakers that we're considering for that as well? Or I don't know. Sorry, it's my first year, so I don't know how this works exactly.
It would be the pathways teachers, the elementary pathways teachers
Okay.
would participate. It will be the leads of that. So you want it from February 4th to 6th? Is that
Yeah,
what
that's
you're
what we were thinking based on, finish off with January, it's the beginning, and just because of the dates that we were looking at for the other pieces, we think that would probably be the best. And we're kind of picking dates between Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because Mondays and Fridays are probably not the best. But we did want to give them notice, so I guess we would just align that with.
So I'll take that back.
Okay.
Andrew and I will take it back, and so we'll connect with Superintendent Del Sordo,
Okay.
and then he'll tap the Pathways teacher
Okay,
who will lead it.
perfect.
So
Andrew,
we'll
I
do-
think you have my notes too. I think I sent if not, I can send you the attachments. Oh, look, they're up on the screen. I can see. Sorry. Yeah, so they're all there. So the other piece that was big was February 26th is what we were looking at if we could for the human trafficking. Like it was sort of a dangers of everything kind of concept because there was so much in there: the human trafficking, online gambling, mental health awareness. The human trafficking piece, just letting you know, Halton is actually in the corridor of human trafficking. So you have Milton and Georgetown and North based on the 401, and then you have Burlington, Oakville based on the QE. So because of the locations of where all these schools are, it's a huge piece, the human trafficking piece. And so, yeah, I didn't even realize it until I had a conversation with somebody else about it after this survey. So I think that is a big piece that we probably want to make sure that we
There are also presentations to all the grade 10s across Ontario.
what it looks like, yeah.
What it looks like, what it looks like to be grouped.
And there's a girl I think that was part of it, and she actually spoke about it, and I have to figure out if I can find that particular speaker, and she said you get the students within the school to recruit the other students, right? And that's a big piece. So it's not what we're used to, which is an adult coming in and whatnot. It's the actual students there. So I think with everything that's going on, we might want to really, I don't know if we want to do just a human trafficking piece or we want to do the online gambling, the mental health awareness, and do sort of a variety. What are you guys' thoughts on?
So what I would say is, can I bring it back to Superintendent Cordero? Because it'd be under her purview about who's available, be it from Halton Region and Halton Police Services, to do this type of presentation for our parents, unless they know who else could come in to do it. Okay, so there's a lot of work being done with this. And I know he had a presentation last year in the spring, right? And it was well attended, very well attended. Okay, so let me go back to him. What's the time frame that you were hoping?
We were looking at the end of February,
Okay.
just based on timing. I think
Okay.
it was before March break and, a couple of weeks before.
Okay.
February 26th was the exact date we were looking at, but obviously if they around with that. And if it's a online session, obviously we could do whatever. If not, based on the attendance, I think we might have to split it up between the two different areas. And I wouldn't necessarily do separated from elementary and secondary. I would probably do one session in North Halton, one session in Burlington, Oakville. That's sort of what we're thinking. So I know we said 4 to 5, but we're going to stick with 4. And the last one was the artificial intelligence in the future, and it was Sinead Bobel, and I think Janelle, you were looking into that. We're looking at April from an availability perspective. That's our earliest date, but I don't know if we have the cost on that just yet.
Yeah, no. So I'll probably get a cost later this month.
Okay.
She's overseas right now, so I've been talking with her assistant, and they said they're very interested in doing something. So she's gonna get back to me. So I'll get back to you with that.
And that's a completely online session because she's based in the States. So that one is one, I think, whatever the cost is, it's going to be open to everybody. So I don't know if there's going to be a restriction on how many attendees, but I think that's going to really get, you're going to be able to do a lot more from a virtual perspective. And it's kind of the artificial intelligence and the future is kind of what we were looking at. So it's not just that, it's sort of basing it on, where we're headed, what kids, from a career perspective can look at and things like that. So I think once we figure out what Sinead's one will look like, we can, if we need to kind of expand on that a little bit more after the fact, we can look at that. But I think she alone will probably take up a good portion of, yeah. So
She'll take up the whole session.
yeah. The other things we're thinking of is because we had, the online gambling and the mental health awareness that we were looking at with the combining with the human trafficking, we might just want to send out, some notices like, I just picked out dates like December 11th, January 8th, April 23rd. January is very tough coming from the banking industry, I can tell you right now that that's the biggest depression time is after Christmas, after the holidays. So I don't know if the mental health piece might be something we want to address in January, in terms of, avenues or resources that we can consider. I don't know if I would want to send anything about online gambling or human trafficking in January. I think that might be even more depressing to add to it, like in terms of, what we can take on. So I think definitely mental health. If the first week of January, second week of January, we want to send something out with a link or some resources, I think it's a great idea to kind of put that out there. But we have some dates in there that we can play around with because of just emails or social media updates.
Just with regards to Janelle, to the AI presenter, just if you could give me some information so we can make sure that it's aligned to, right? Yeah.
Yeah, do you want me to like send you her IG? Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay?
Okay, yeah, of
And I'll share it with Superintendent Kroll.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, okay, thanks.
And that's it for me.
Okay, that sounds awesome. And
I have a question.
I don't have an answer.
The communication for the e-learning and the pathways that's coming up next week. Has that gone out?
Next week
So the
For
e-learning.
the corpus?
Yes, e-learning is on Wednesday, right? That went out.
It's been a busy week already for me.
I didn't get
Has
the-
anything gone out for the one for corpus, like the one at corpus?
I haven't seen it. Okay.
I was gonna say, people want to know about it. Okay.
In that communication, can we state that there will be a virtual component in February so that people are aware, they don't panic if they don't, attend this session? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I have one more question. The pathways presentation, is that for everybody or is it just specifically for like secondary? Oh, it's not open to 11 or 12? Well, that's not fair.
8 to 11 is e-learning. Pathways is 9 and 10.
Was there a reasoning for just doing it for 9 and 10 or just for like
Well, first of all, because we have capacity
Mhm.
at Corpus Christi, so we focused on 9 and 10 because they're making decisions for 11 and 12 courses. Students who are in 11 and 12 should be going to their guidance personnel to get some information about that because they need to be doing that like ASAP.
Can I make a suggestion? If you do this in the future, putting something out to parents for 11s and 12s, because we have a lot of parents that are maybe not utilizing the pathway stuff that we had last year. So they don't know, right? So that is one of a big topic with a lot of parents that I speak to is they want to be involved with how their students are, looking at universities or looking at, apprenticeships or all the different ones. And it could, having those types of like presentations or events, even incorporating stuff about graduation, what like, requirements and stuff, because they're at the end of it. And with all of the changes, especially with, e-learning and the course cap credits, it's been like parents have had to adjust a lot for that, and it's been difficult for some to navigate.
What I would say, because you're a grade 12 parent, and I think you started during COVID, because I've attended like the grade 8 orientation sessions at my 2 high schools, which are very well attended, and a lot is explained in those sessions as parents are starting into high school. And then
missed that boat.
That's exactly it. But having said that, I will bring this back to Superintendent Del Sordo because that's his portfolio, the pathways, and how we can get this information to parents too, because if the students aren't accessing the guidance personnel, how do we share that information to parents after the fact? That's why it was his teams who said, we need to get to the grade 9 and 10 parents so they're better prepared for grade 11 and 12. Okay? But thanks for that feedback.
And also, Emily, that schools do these, like each school does their own for parents.
they don't. And I would love to have a mandate where, and the thing is, it's easy for me to say this because I'm not in the school and I don't know how busy they are, but it would be really great to have a mandate where by the time the students reach grade 10 that they've met with their guidance counselor and had a conversation. I knew it because my daughter didn't know her guidance counselor until grade 11. So I made sure my son met his guidance counselor in grade 9. But I knew that a lot of parents don't know that. So I think it would be great if we could mandate that. But like I said, if you have a school of, with 700 grade 9s and it's a busy school, I don't know where they're going to have time, but some of the students don't even know who their guidance counselors are. Yes, the emails go out, but at the end of the day, they have to be able to connect with them and have a conversation. And I feel like some people do fall through the cracks as a result of it. So I know what you're saying.
I can just comment on that. I went through all of high school without talking to guidance once. Look where it's got me. No, just kidding. The pathways and stuff, it is presented to the students. Like, I know that. But I guess it's the parents that, at least some that I've talked to, have kind of feel out of the loop in that.
What I can say is, I know that Superintendent Del Sordo has created a beautiful package, which is electronic and in print. Okay. But if it hasn't gone out to parents and you're not seeing it, we need to understand why it's not out there. Well, here's the thing is, what we do know is that we don't send everything out through strategic communications because sometimes parents don't see those things that come out. But if it comes from the school, emailing it to parents and sharing it, parents may see it more. So we need to maybe share it that way, but I'll find out because I know there's a plan to share that information. And if you're saying as a parent, you haven't seen it yet, then maybe it hasn't gone out. So let me look into that.
Some of the communications that come from schools, I find, lacks context, or it's unclear, or we have parents that are getting inundated with email after email after email, so they'll overlook it. So that's what I find, anyways.
We'll take it back.
I just have two thoughts. One, Andrea, the pathways on the 19th is first come, first serve sign up, right? Going out tomorrow, correct? CAP is at what? 4:20? And the identical presentation, give or take, will be virtual in February, right? Same content. Okay, perfect. So just on the whole 19 thing, it starts at 7 at Corpus. Who from around this table plans on attending? Like, this is a parent engagement session. Emily and I will be there. Nancy, you won't be, right? Because there's a board meeting that night. So do we have who's introducing the session? Is all that sorted or what's happening? Because this is what we need to talk about because we can't just go rogue. So. And just while you guys are figuring that out, what time should we be there, Nancy? Is there anything we need to do in terms of setup? I'm assuming Corpus AV people are on it and all of that, but in terms of the rest of us, is there anything that we absolutely need to do?
What we should do is CPIC should have a table, a greeting table, maybe get the people to sign, maybe not sign or check off their name. We'll have the CPIC sign. The pathways will have their own banner as well. So it's a spot, people will know where they're going. And it's really just to be greeters. So we should have at least 5 CPIC members there to welcome parents to this event.
Okay, so how are we getting that banner? Andrea, are you coming? No, so we can take it tonight? Okay, perfect. Okay, so back to who's introducing this session? Emily and I will be there, but I just don't want to overstep the committee, right?
Yeah, I
Perfect.
agree we should talk more on them.
It's because I should have actually taken up the role for this committee, but again, I was, yeah. So I'll help you guys out and we can talk about how we usually do it, okay? All right, thank you.
Okay, so we'll leave it with you guys to just kind of sort that out and just let us know over the next couple of days that that's all sorted out. I have no doubt you guys will sort it all out, but just to make sure that we've got it all lined up. Cool. Okay, so I think that's everything from that committee. I apologize, I'm not going to hit Janelle's amazing 57 minutes of the last meeting because I have 2 minutes now to get through everything else, and that's not going to happen. Okay, so next up is school council support. So that's you.
Sure, I'll start. You guys can chime in, Emily and Angelo. So we held our Catholic School Council training session for chairs and co-chairs and anybody else who wanted to join. I think it went really well. I think it was our highest attendance to date since I've been on CPIC and helping host those sessions. It was a good turnout. We had lots of questions, lots of good conversation. I don't know if you guys want to comment on how you felt about it, but I think it went over really well. Ada, you were on the call, right? Yeah. So it is recorded, so it gets posted, correct, Andrea? I didn't check to see if it's there yet, but it got emailed out, correct, yes. So for anybody who wants to have a listen. And then the only other thing we have coming up is our Let's Connect on November 20th. So that's going to be virtual. And we will make sure socials pushes something out and Andrea sends the email with the link. And again, open to anybody who wants to come and engage. So Emily, Angela, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I guess I can just speak for the WhatsApp. I got good feedback from my family of schools. I got a lot of people coming on board. So I don't know if anyone else has a good news story about their family of schools, if gotten good participation so far.
Yeah, it's been, some of the family of schools have been pretty active already. I'm in all of them, so I get all the notifications. No, but a lot of them have already had some really good conversations and questions asking, and a lot of schools looking to like collaborate on pro-grant stuff as well and trying to maximize some of those. That's been really nice to just have some of that open conversation happening. Okay, anybody have any other questions for Catholic School?
No, I just wanted to say, I think having that session after just following the Council of Chairs was really beneficial because I think we got a lot more engaged chairs and council members within that training session. And there was a lot of good questions that were asked. And yeah, I think it went very well.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so next up is for socials. So I'll go first really quick. So I did a post a couple of days ago for the e-learning session. I will do posts in the next couple of days for the sessions on the 19th and the 20th, the pathways and the Let's Connect. And I'm going to pass it over to Becca, who has some other ideas.
I get to do the fluffy stuff. So I have a couple of posts in the works for Advent coming up. Every Sunday I'm going to post the next week, and it's going to list things you can do with your family for that week of Advent kind of deal. I was trying to put together, my life's been slightly falling apart a little bit, and I'm trying to put it back together. So it was the last ditch thought that I should do a Remembrance Day thing. So when Lauren says what I wrote is okay, I'll post it. But so yeah, that's kind of the idea. Anything that's a holiday, anything that's prayerful and all that kind of stuff, I'm gonna add. Trying to get more stories. We had the Council of Chairs, and I took the pictures from that everybody inundated our chat with and made little collages, and it was just to try and drive just so it catches more people's attentions sort of deal. I've noticed on Facebook a couple more people are starting to view the page. I was getting a little joyful at that. But yeah, basically that. So if you guys do take pictures of your events that you're running, send them to the group chat. If you really want a nice fluffy thanks for everybody came kind of thing, then let me know and I'll do that one. Especially stories. Because people doom scroll, right? And so the stories pop up as they doom scroll, and then it might catch their attention. Oh, hey, there's my face in that picture, kind of deal. So yeah.
I can make just a small suggestion. If you want to share the Facebook or Instagram account within the family of school, like within the WhatsApp
Oh,
chat.
that's
So you
brilliant.
probably
Okay.
will get a lot more,
I could probably make QR codes to share up instead of links, and then they don't
Yeah,
get lost. And
however you want to do it. I think it's a good idea
Cool.
because especially if you have a family of schools group that's chatty,
Yeah.
getting people and share it. Because I know we don't have a ton of followers, and I
Right.
think
No.
the posts are going to be more useful if we have more engaged followers. So.
No, that's for sure a good point, particularly with the moving away from Twitter/X, which I have officially now put up a post on that said I'm not posting here. Follow us on Instagram or on Facebook.
We're
And
done with this dumpster
I
fire.
had Andrea Swindon sign off on me making that post. She was fine with it. Yeah, so we're just posting on Instagram and Facebook now. But even those, like you said, I've noticed like the engagement's starting to tick up a little bit. So yeah, if anything we can do to try to promote that would be awesome. Okay, assuming nobody has any other questions for me and Becca, I'm going to move on. Okay, so representation on board committees. So I'm first for bullying prevention intervention. We haven't had a meeting since our last meeting, so I don't have anything to share. Our meeting is on Monday next week. So when we meet in January, I'll have a more notable update on that. Focus on faith. Anything?
So we didn't have representation for the first meeting, which was November 1st, but Emily and I are going to tag team it. So the next two meetings for the year are February 11th and May 7th. So we'll have an update for you after February 11th.
Perfect. Okay, journeying with Jesus.
Nothing to report.
Okay, mental health.
I haven't had anything about it yet. Have you?
We had a meeting this week.
Did you tell me? No, I didn't know that.
I don't know if maybe you're not
They
in the
didn't
email.
add, they didn't add me to it.
Boy, but don't blame me. It's not my fault. I'll give you the update. We met, I want to say this week. It was last week. Forgot it's Monday. We started off by just talking about the key mental health priorities, just getting students more involved, supporting some underserved groups, and just building a stronger community. The updates from the mental health team were the student mental health champions. These are students who are helping to spread mental health awareness and get more students engaged within their own schools. There are now mandatory mental health literacy modules, mandatory for grade 10s and 7s and 8s. Is that right? Thanks, yes, maybe. And that's just to help boost awareness for mental health and coping skills. There is a mental health toolkit on the OLS, and that's used for just educators to support students in their own mental health and wellness. And one thing I did notice is I was just looking on the board website, and I mean, I'm not surprised by how many resources, but I've not ever really dove into it. So it's not just for parents. It's, you know, there's resources for parents, there's resources for youth, there's resources for teachers and staff. And there's another focus on like mental health equity. And I just thought that was important to share. My next page. Just community partner updates. Halton Public Health, they are running a Take the Clouds Outside initiative, and that's to focus on reducing vapings within the schools and just creating a healthier environment. Secondary students are getting in-person presentations, and I believe educational like resources are being shared at the elementary level. Halton Public Health has a whole bunch of different kind of programs and initiatives. Some are geared towards your elementary, like the PALS program, which is, it just includes, it's grades, I think 5 and 6 students that will lead inclusive activities during recess. And I don't know if it's been at the Halton board. It's been here for a while, right? Okay. I'm not in the elementary world anymore, so I don't know how long that was run. And there's also practical kind of supports for parents to support students' mental health. The ROC, the Outreach Center for Kids, they've updated their website to make it easier for families to access their Youth and Family Connect, their group programs. And it just allows them to register and see which available services are available. And Ontario Health at Home, they have mental health and addictions nurses, which are available to support students dealing with mental health and or addiction issues. And they will actually come to your home. And that's just for, early intervention, education, care coordination, and referrals are made from your child and youth counselors or through hospital referrals. And that is all I have for my update. Our next meeting is February 25th. I'll make sure you know.
Okay, awesome. Any questions for Emily? Cool. Okay, regional arts programming. Angela or Rebecca, anything? Okay, cool. And school year calendar.
Nothing yet.
Cool. Okay, so moving on to discussion items. So the first one was Council of Chairs. Just if anybody had any feedback that we haven't kind of already shared from Council of Chairs. Everything I heard was that it was really well done. Massive kudos to Emily for the team building activity that went so well. And I think the idea that we had at the last meeting to put that team building activity in the middle was absolutely a good call. I think it broke up the speakers nicely and kept people really engaged through the second half of the meeting. So just curious, going to throw it out if anybody else had any other feedback or thoughts to share or things to do differently for next time and so on.
I had a few people come up to me and chat afterwards, and one chair, I don't know what school she was from, but she came up and she said, "This is my first time being on a school council. This is my first time as chair." And she said, "This was amazing. It was such an engaging event." She was so happy. And she said, what did she say? She said something like, we've set the bar high. So that was just kind of affirming. And everybody liked my Eras Tour outfit. So that was good.
I think the only sort of recommendation that I heard was rather than having the tables numbered, people wanted to know who was at the table. So maybe Bishop Redding, Holy Cross, have a label just so that as you're looking around the room, if you're wondering who are those people at that table, those are, Corpus Christi people, these are, whoever. So that was the only suggestion. Rather than numbers, they would like to have a name on the table. But other than that, great attendance, great activity. Sign-in was a little bit crazy, but Jerry and I rocked it.
Yeah, we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants there, but we managed. But it probably could have been a little more efficient. I think if we're going to continue to do that, and I like that to see who's actually attended from, or which schools are represented. I think it's good to have that and to know that. I think at the end of the day, there was only a couple of schools where no one signed in. That's not to say they weren't there. They might have missed us, but that was good to see that we had nearly 100% representation. But yeah, and I would say, whatever, depending on what the format is, we do going forward to continue to do that, but just to think it out more in advance.
Yeah.
It should have, we were really trying to fly.
And maybe it's not about them signing, but maybe it's just where are you from, and a check mark or something. Maybe they don't actually need to sign their name.
Exactly, because they were literally signing the thing, but it's we really don't need your signature. It was a name, would have been good. Yeah.
Or what about having something at each table?
I think we had little stickers for name tags on the tables. No, they thought it was for the game. They were all the stickers were on the puzzle pieces, and I had to go rip them all off. So
I meant to get hello, my name is.
Yeah.
So those are dollar store things.
no, it was, or it wasn't really explained that that's what they were for. But I mean, yeah. So many. You were not the only one.
It should have been nice to know who's on the table. Like I was conversing with people or telling them to join the family of schools, and who's the vice principal from her school? Is this person? I'm like, I didn't know they were not, parents. You know what I'm saying? So it would be good to have identification. Yeah.
Did we do any follow-up with schools who weren't represented?
The way we have it is if the school's not going to be there, they have to let the superintendent know. So I knew 2 of my schools were not attending because the parents couldn't attend. So they weren't, but I don't know of others because I think there was good attendance. So I wasn't looking at the other family schools.
We also got good feedback on the presentation for the cell phone. It was amazing. I know my kids' school, the vice principal wants to have something like that presented in the school again. So that was a very good feedback. I know we've done that before. I think in one of the CPIC stuff.
Wojciech Kibicki is one of our vice principals. What's new is I think we've always hired a provider where this was one of our own staff who's also a parent. His children don't go to our board because he lives in Mississauga, but it was authentic because he spoke about it from a vice principal perspective, but also as a parent. And I think that he gave some good insight. So there are many family schools who are tapping him to come. Okay. Yeah.
We're trying to book him in my kids' school. He was amazing.
Yeah. Just wanted to say it would be good to use the feedback for the next one in February to streamline especially the registration process. We had a lot of people cut it out because perhaps the queue was just too long, right? Yeah, but if we have something to make it really quick and easy for people, then we would have everybody register at the entrance. I want to look at that.
QR code people to death. Yeah, and what's the problem there?
Has there been any thought of pre-registering possibility of the chairs? Yeah, doesn't work.
They say they're going to come, right? And yeah, so I think we really want to know who actually shows up, right?
Well, when we say we want to know who,
Not necessarily who, but representation from each
schools,
school.
yes,
Yeah.
that each school has representation of some kind.
Yeah, that was why we really pushed this year. If your chairs can't make it, send someone else so that, like, I know like my school did that. Neither of the chairs from St. Matt could come. So they got somebody else from council to come. So at least St. Matt had council representation, even if it wasn't the chairs. And I think there were a few other schools that did the same thing.
I have a question that is probably not from that. What do you guys do that sit on your school board? Does your meetings affect, like, do they clash with these meetings? And how do you do it? Go ahead.
You mean
The school council meetings, yeah.
clash with council of
Yeah,
chairs?
yeah.
Well, we set those council of chairs meetings right up front at the beginning of the year, right? So as a chair of my own council, I work around those dates. Like I don't ever book one because I know that that's happening, right?
And I'm talking about, does it clash with our meetings today? Like, CPIC meetings, that's what I mean. You don't put yours on Mondays? is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Or if you choose a Monday, don't choose the CPIC dates, right? Because the CPIC dates are already pre-selected, right? So if it falls on the third Monday or whatever, pick the first Monday or whatever, right? Like I just work around it.
I had our meetings on Mondays last year, and it was a struggle because there's holidays, there's CPIC. It was just there was a lot of switching dates. Like we couldn't make it consistent, like the second Monday of the month. So this year, I suggested we move it to Wednesdays because it was just challenging for me personally. And I know that's not really, we want to look for everybody, but as chair, you kind of have to be there to lead the meeting. So I really pushed to push it for another day because it was just with holidays and the CPIC meetings, it was very challenging to juggle. And I think like we had to like, you know, there was not a PA day, but there was a holiday that I forgot about, or it was a family day. And I was like, oh, so I would definitely, because you know these meetings ahead of time, right?
No problem. But when Anne-Maria was a vice principal, we never had meetings on Mondays, but we have a new vice principal and she likes Mondays. So like today, there's a meeting right now, so I have to miss it. So yeah.
Tell her to change it, then. You just go back and tell her to change it, because you're an important part of that committee and you need to be there. Like what? I don't understand why she wouldn't change it for you.
Push. Push back.
I'll talk to your principal, Ada.
The principal's calling the principal.
But like, I know Angelo's principal because Angelo's on CPIC has planned their meetings on Tuesdays so that Angelo can be present. So I think it's about you as CPIC member being upfront with the principal to say, I'm on CPIC, so can we talk about it? I know your principal, no. I know.
You're in trouble.
Okay, all right. So that gives us quite a lot to take in. So with that in mind, actually, the next item for discussion is for the February Council of Chairs. So I'm gonna pass that one over to Janelle.
Okay, so I know we talked about possible topics, but I just want to jump down to, I guess it depends on what our topics are, but Angela, Emily, and myself had a little conversation just around, we had decided typically February meeting was an online virtual meeting just because of weather, winter, etc. And of course, we've had years where it's been dry as a bone and we're wondering why we're all online when we could be together. So we talked about separating it out sort of by city, right? So we were all together for the first one. We talked about February being maybe a meeting in Burlington, a meeting in Oakville, and a meeting in the North, etc. But we talked about how we've had such a successful first Council of Chairs, high attendance, really great presentations, great feedback. So we're questioning, and we're putting this out to the group basically, is do we really want to divide ourselves up? And I guess it would depend on what we plan. Does it lend itself to us being in smaller, sort of close proximity to home? It is February. My concern is, I think we're taking away the administrative piece, right? So they came to the first one, but moving forward for the next, it will just be council members basically. So then that already creates a smaller group. So if we separate by city and hold them all on the same day, that means we are all divided up because someone has to run them in those cities, right? And then it becomes, is it technically challenging? Because if we have presenters, they can't be in all three places at the same time. So then we're like zooming in somebody. Do we have that technical capability? Do we have great service in the space that we're going to be using? So I'm just putting it out to the group to kind of rethink, do we want to be divided or do we want to try to do it like we just did, I guess. So not knowing where we've landed in terms of what we want to talk about in terms of presentations or activities, which may lend itself better in small groups or in a larger group. But I'm just wondering, if we think about the number of people, is it going to be a successful event if it's small pockets of people versus a group? So just throwing it out there, what do you guys think? Do you want to stay together, pick one location, or do we want to divide it out? So opening up the floor for discussion.
I go first.
I think just based on what? I'm sorry, I can't see you. This thing's in the way.
Please go ahead. I'll take it off for you. Please go ahead. I can do it.
Emily, you have the floor.
Go ahead.
You have to start raising hands in the meeting or something.
No, I was just going to say, just based on how successful it was when we were all together, I would think in person in one location with everybody would be ideal. Because I think people, especially people that are new on councils, are going to come out, think it's going to be the same type of event. And then they're going to see there's 5 people in the room and be like, oh, hopefully more than 5.
Go.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say from event planning perspective, having such a turnout is really great. And then part of the feedback was also that was about the biggest. It was my first attendance anyways, but then the immediate feedback on that day was that was about the biggest. I think the most ideal thing would be to leverage on that platform, push as much communications out there via the social media channels, and then ride on that. People would be really looking forward to the subsequent edition. If we break it down, it's going to kill the morale and the momentum. And then if you want to have another one, say next year, you won't. It's going to disrupt the flow. Like people would have really had a mindset, oh, this was really good. And then they want to look at the next one. It's not good to break it down.
So what I would say is depends on what we want to accomplish, right? So if it's presenters and disseminating information, obviously doing it once in one large group logistically is far more straightforward to execute. And yes, you do have a kind of a buzz in the room, and it feels good to have such a well-attended event. But again, coming back to what are our objectives for the meeting? And I must say, originally when the idea was floated about number 1, taking the admin out, and number 2, breaking up the meetings into smaller meetings, it didn't sit well with me right away. But then I sat back and I thought about it. I'm like, well, depends what you want to do. And if certain things can be achieved in a large group session, and other things can be achieved in small group sessions. So one of the big pieces is supposed to be an opportunity for networking, network building, and to be real, how many people do you actually have the opportunity to speak with directly at a council of chairs? A handful at best. So do I need every chairperson present in the room for me to be able to effectively network with the handful that I'm going to anyway? No. So, and maybe you can accomplish more in a small group in that sense, in terms of the networking opportunity to really build some bridges and networks within your more local community. So if that's the objective of achieving that networking piece, then I would suggest the smaller groups would be more effective for that. So all comes back to what we want to accomplish.
Hear you, Jerry. My only thought though is like we're 58 schools, right? Times maybe 2 people. But if we're not all together, what does that look like if we separate that out? Do you know what I'm right?
Oh,
so it becomes very tiny. So I just wonder how effective that will be. But again, what is our agenda for that night, right?
Yeah. It's hard to say how will it be effective or not if we don't know what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right? So if we define that, yeah, that will help guide the answer. I think we do it the other way around, then it's kind of like the tail wagging the dog. The format is going to dictate what we do, as opposed to what we want to do dictating the format.
And I think we said, Nancy, that if we were to do it all together, we would probably pick like Corpus as like essential, correct? For everyone. So that would be where we would probably look to host.
And the possible topics, this is just reading this straight out of the agenda. We talked about having a vaping session, vaping information session.
You mean we're not gonna vape? I'm so disappointed.
Oh, goodness. Okay, a vaping info session, a team building activity in the middle, and then a presentation on equity roadmap and possibly something around special education. So having those as the topics, and then maybe a drug test at the end of it. So if we roughly go on those lines, does it make more sense to have it all, like do it like in the cafeteria at Corpus, or do we want to do it in 3 separate locations, assuming that the topics go broadly in that kind of vein?
I think based on that, again, dissemination of information and presenters,
Together.
one large group. Yeah. And then, but then still have the opportunity at the tables for a networking thing, a game, whatever we choose to do, some kind of engaging
Looking
activity.
right at me for that game,
Hey,
aren't
well,
you?
you're
Now
yeah.
we gotta kind of
Sorry,
come up
you're-
with
you're
something new in
typecast now,
3
Emily.
days before the event.
you're typecast now, Emily. Sorry.
What about
But yeah,
weather?
I'd say large.
Game equals Emily.
Can we do my Taylor Swift versus Bible quotes? Come on.
But what about the
You get
weather?
why don't you get through this week first and see what that turns out to be like for you downtown? And then we'll go. They've closed all the roads.
February, as you all know, is one of the coldest, and the weather is unpredictable. So, as we all want something big, what about the weather?
Yeah, what is the backup plan?
The backup plan with those presenters, we can flip it to a virtual presentation. Yeah, it can be. It's just the game we may have to change.
Challenge accepted.
Okay. So have like
Online game?
an online game available.
Janelle, are you gonna ask for a vote on this right now, or are we just?
Do we have consensus? Like, what are we thinking?
Well, I was just want to jump in with the whole north thing, right? Coming down in the weather and whatnot. Would it maybe make sense to have one satellite? Everybody else gets to Corpus Christi, but the north people, if it's too bad to come down, but not too bad up there, meet at like Christ the King or something, and then we just satellite in that way.
The only problem with satelliting it in is that you're not gonna get people that are not gonna come in as much. Like if you have two options, people are most likely not gonna wanna either do the online or probably more like the online. I also hate
But
the way.
we would only have the links to run it.
And then you run into people that come in person and wonder why people are able to satellite in when they.
Because we're stuck in the north in the snow. Like,
It's like I live in Georgetown. I don't know why.
because I like my Hickville, okay?
Personally, I'd say it's
I'm just
one or
saying,
the other.
like,
I think Becca's suggesting that like if the weather looks not great, that we just say like, okay, so for the people in the north,
go to this place.
either if you feel comfortable to come down to Corpus, then great. If you prefer to go to Christ the King, then go there, and then we'll just do a satellite from Christ the King as opposed to everybody's house. So it's like one satellite location.
As good as it sounds, I think we should plan for a virtual thing in February. Because it will get confusing. Where am I going? Am I going this way or that way? And at the end of it, it might just be a little chaos. So if you're going to plan it, then plan it now on time so people know, but not waiting to the last minute. And another suggestion would be you make a choice of the most important out of the topics that you chose, the ones that you think the parents want to really know about. Let's not do it in February. Let's do it later in another session. The one that is not as important. I don't know. Because for me, I think for me as a parent, I would have liked to know about that vaping. I would, I don't know. What do you all think? Let's make a.
Lauren, you can
guys
find out
can-
yourself.
Huh? What did you say?
Lauren, you can find out firsthand.
I didn't even hear what she said.
So when we planned the fall one, it was going to be the cell phone and vaping, but because of the length of that, and we wanted the mental health piece in there, we only have an hour and a half when we bring the parents together. So that's why we said vaping for February. And my fear, I think vaping is a real huge topic right now in the region, in our schools. So I think it's important we get this message to the parents in February.
I like it.
And I think that be it virtual, be it virtual or in person, it can still have the same impact. Okay. And it is the vice principal who's going to be presenting it, another vice principal, and some good work that he's doing with it. So I think we could do it either way. I hear you. We've had how many times the February meeting turns into a snowstorm or something happening. So I think our sort of, this is what's going to happen. Maybe we plan for it. This is probably going to happen. Like, I think Ada's correct that maybe we need to just decide. Either you're going to, you know what, it's okay. If you want to do it in person, I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with the plan for CTK group of people to go there. I just think we need to make the decision and stick to it.
So I guess the question is, are we thinking in person with a plan to flip it to virtual if the weather looks terrible, or are we thinking just go virtual? Like what are we, where are we
Honestly,
at?
would just pick one right now and go with that because I feel like switching it after it's just going to be a lot of coordination and a lot of unnecessary. So either you pick the in person.
But then, so you're saying in person, but then if the inclement weather, cancel?
I'm saying virtual altogether, and virtual is my vote. But that's just based on the fact that then I know what to expect. I also know we have a session in the beginning of February for pathways. I know we're looking at a session at the end of February. So considering all these things that we're doing with March break coming up after that, I would probably say a virtual is probably the best option and the best bang for your buck.
It is also though that like engagement in virtual council chairs is
It's
like
terrible.
Suck. Yeah, I would,
really,
and
yeah,
again,
I
we're
would support,
talking-
I would support what Nancy said, in person,
person?
plan for in person. And usually, we have a little bit of notice about the weather. And then if we need to pivot to virtual, people are used to virtual now.
Yeah.
So it's not, you send out the link and then you just advise everyone due to the upcoming storm or expected storm, we're going to switch to virtual.
Yeah, I think that's a better call. I think we plan to do it in person and then, 5 days out or so when we see what the forecast is looking like, we can just make a call with enough notice. It just says like, look, the weather looks really questionable. We're just going to do this virtual just to not have the stress of it. But I think we proceed on the assumption that we will do it in person.
It's much better in terms of.
It's so much better in person. The virtual ones really,
tough.
nobody puts their camera on. People are sitting there, then they're like distracted with like they're half listening and half putting their kids to bed or making dinner or cleaning the kitchen or whatever. And it's just like the engagement goes way down.
And again, the bar has been set so high in the momentum that if we can do it in person, that's my preference. But I understand it is February, right? So.
But like we've had some Februarys where it's been fine. And then we have some Februarys where it's really not. So I think we just look at it for a few days before and just make a call. But let's go on the assumption we're going to do it in person. I think just like we said, the engagement is just so much better.
So in person, altogether, virtual as a backup.
I like that.
Okay. Okay, back up to the agenda here. Where are we here? So we did that. Okay. We don't have any other business, so just going to go straight to our closing prayer. So Jackie, over to you.
Okay, let's start with the sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you, Lord, for the ideas that you spoke into life here today and for the courage of each voice that stood to be heard. Bless all of us in this meeting today as we bow our heads and lift up our plans to you. We pray that you bless our hearts and minds to know we have done well in your eyes. We pray for your assurance that we are operating within your will. Bless us, Lord, as we leave here today to take your passion with us, fan its flame after we part, and inspire our best contributions. Remind us always of your love as we see our plans unfold and accomplish the goals we set. May the strength of God sustain us. May the power of God preserve us. May the hands of God protect us. May the way of God direct us. May the love of God go with us this night and forever. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay, thank you very much. That's adjournment at 8:34. Thanks, everyone.